What is the biggest hurdle for you ranking high in your school and succeeding and achieving your goals? It's yourself. I'm not smart enough, or I don't have the time or the ability to achieve my goals. These are all things we say to ourselves to rationalize why we don't achieve our goals. If you want to succeed in life and rank high in your school and your exams, stop saying these things and watch this video. Hello friends, if you're new here, my name is Malki Assad, plastic surgery resident in the United States, and throughout my journey to medical school and residency in the US, I realized that having a good study strategy and study technique is key in achieving your goal. And I use these techniques myself, which helped me rank consistently as #1 in my medical school class and graduate as a valedictorian. I also use these techniques when I was studying for the USMLE exams, which are required to get into residency in the US, and these techniques helped me rank in the 99th percentile in both the Step 1 and the Step 2 CK. And in this video, I wanted to share with you these strategies and these techniques that can help you achieve your goals and rank in the 99th percentile or even the 100th percentile in your school and in your exams. Before we get started, make sure to check out my detailed course on how to study for exams and all the techniques and strategies that I used throughout my journey, and this course is available for free for 1 month on Skillshare. The first secret in ranking in the 99th percentile of your school or any exam you take is identifying the right resources. Because if you don't have the right resources, it's as if you're driving from one city to another and you have a map, but you have the wrong map. So it's not gonna lead you where you should end up. But the question is, how can I identify the best resources? The first step towards identifying the best resources is asking your peers. So you'll find in each school, for any exam you take, there are people who have done that before and have succeeded in achieving the goal that you are looking for. So if you're looking for the 99th percentile of a certain exam, look in the years above you who achieved that goal and go ahead and ask them. You will realize that some of them might not be willing to share the secrets of their success because they don't want anyone to achieve that goal. But if you ask around, try to listen to multiple people, I'm sure you will find some people who are willing to share what are the resources that help them achieve the goal that you are looking for. Be careful in identifying the people who achieved the goal that you are looking for. So if you scored in the 99th percentile and you go and ask somebody who scored in the 70th percentile, it might not be wise to exactly follow what they told you. It might not be wrong to listen to them, take their opinion in consideration, but the best is to find someone who achieved the goal that you are looking for. So if you want to score in the 99th percentile, go and ask somebody who scored in the 99th percentile. Again, it's not wrong to ask other people. Try to listen as many advice as possible, but the best advice is the one you would get from someone who is in a similar situation. After you listen to as many advices as possible, give more weight to those who achieve similar goal, you start and try the resource. If you don't like it or if it doesn't fit with your learning style, go ahead and choose something else, because what might have worked for someone might not work for you. So that's why I always recommend you go and try the resource. Sometimes your school mandates certain resources, but these resources might not help you achieve the goal that you are looking for. Sometimes if you study another resource other than the one that school imposed on you, you might score higher on that same exam. Or if you supplement the school resource with another resource, you might score higher. Because sometimes you might be enough with the school resource and you might be able to understand everything, but more likely than not, you would need some additional resources, maybe some YouTube videos, some posts from Google, or some explanation of certain topics. Another important point when it comes to resources is lectures. The majority of students' time is spent on lectures in their schools or online. And lectures are very tricky because sometimes they're helpful in you understanding the concepts and you go ahead and read the book afterward or take the practice test and you feel that the lecture is helping you. But from my experience, more likely than not, lectures did not help me personally in understanding the topic more. If I read the topic by myself, I'm able to understand it. And you would be wasting so much time on lectures that if you invest it in your learning by yourself, you might achieve more. So you have to first see, are you allowed to miss certain lectures that are not helpful to you? And if the question is no, there is nothing you can do about that. But if these lectures that you are attending are not helping you learn more about the topic and you're allowed to miss them, I recommend you invest that time in something that will help you learning more. However, don't just miss the lecture and stand outside the class chatting with people or having fun. The key is to reinvest that time in your learning so you can achieve your goal. For online lectures, the trick I always used is play double or sometimes triple speed, because you can finish the 1 hour lecture in half an hour. Now, going to the second secret of ranking in the 99th percentile of your school is having a detailed plan. And in my opinion, that is the most important part of all this video. Having a detailed plan and a detailed strategy of what are you going to study in each day, in each month, until the exam day is what's going to help you achieve your goal. Because if you don't have a study plan, it's like you driving from a city to another, following the signs and roads without having a clear map or a clear guide of when you're taking each turn, what time you'll arrive to each spot. So that's why not having that detailed plan will hurt your chances of achieving your goal. So let's say this semester you have 5 subjects and you picked 10 resources to study for these 5 subjects. And you have only 5 months to finish everything. So you might say, I'm going to study in each month, focus on 1 subject and 2 resources until the exam day. You might say, I'm going to do half of the month for this subject, half of the month for another subject, and use 2 resources for each. This detailed plan is also very important because you can identify the resources that you might not have time to finish. Because if you need, for example, 100 days to study for a certain resource, and you only have 5 months, and you start putting things on your schedule, and you realize you only have time for 3 resources, you might need to readjust and say, I'm not gonna use that resource because I don't have time for that. Maybe another student had more time, or they had different obligations. They were only taking 3 subjects for semester. I had more, so I need to readjust. So that's why the detailed plan can also reflect on your resources. If you find that you have more time, you might add things. If you have less time, you might decrease the resources or choose things that would take less time. That's why having, again, this detailed plan of knowing each day, each month, each year, if you're studying for multiple years, the overall plan would help you understand whether you'll be able to achieve that goal by the time that you chose. And having a study plan doesn't mean that you have to follow it from day 0 to day 100. You can change the study plan as you go forward in your preparation. Study plans are very flexible. If you start, for example, with 1 resource and you realize that this resource is taking more time than you expected, you can adjust the study plan to reflect that. You might study more hours, you might remove certain resources, remove certain obligations from your life to give time to this resource and finish the goal on time. On the other hand, if you found that the resource is taking less time, what you can do is add other resources or add another activity that can help the goal that you are looking for. So that's why study plans are flexible and you can adjust them as you go forward with your preparation. Now going to the study schedule, which is a little bit different from the study plan. The study plan is like the big map that you will take to reach your goal and rank in the 99th percentile of your school or exam. The study schedule is more like the everyday schedule. So for example, you would say, I'm going to study 12 hours a day and I'm going to take breaks for 4 hours a day. I'm going to sleep for this amount of hours. And you would put in each hour how much would be actual studying versus breaks, when you would be playing basketball, when you would be going out with friends, when you would be eating. So the study schedule is like the speed of the car, and each day when you'll be taking a break, when you'll be driving. So it covers the small details of your studying. And having a study schedule is also very important, because if you say, I'm gonna study microbiology or finance this week, and you don't know how many pages you'll be studying a day, which hours will be dedicated towards studying, which hours will be dedicated towards break, you might lose track of what you're trying to do. Having plans in detail on paper or online, whatever study planning or scheduling you use, will help you identify, okay, in this hour I'm supposed to study, in this hour I'm supposed to take a break. That helps you achieve your goal in a much more predictable way. And in my course on how to study for exams, I created a detailed study schedule that students can follow to identify what they will be doing in each hour of the day. And I also talk about what can you do to be able to study for 12 hours a day without burning out, and that's also a video on my YouTube channel that you can check. Now that you identified the best resources, you have a study plan, study schedule, and now it's time to study. Having good study techniques is key in getting the best use out of this time. So you'll see some students who study for 1 hour and they are able to achieve in that 1 hour more than other students who spend 5 hours studying. Why? Because of good study techniques. In my course on how to study for exams, I discuss the details of the difference between passive and active learning and how can you use the time that you study to be able to remember it on the long term, because that is the goal. If you study for something and you're able to remember it for 1 hour or 2 hours or a day, that's fine, but it's not going to help you achieve the 99th percentile on your exam. If you want to rank high, you have to commit the information you study into a long-term memory. But in this video, I'm going to summarize the most important study techniques that you can follow to achieve the high ranking on your exam. But if you want more detail, go ahead and check out the course, which is available for free on Skillshare. The first tip is understanding. This is something that every student would say, yeah, I understand, there's no problem with that, you're not giving me new information. But what so many students don't realize when they're studying is that they're just reading. They're not actually understanding the information. The key to be able to differentiate between your just reading versus actual understanding is, are you able to say the same concept in your own words? If you're able to do that without looking at the book, without looking at the resource, that means you understood the concept and you are able to teach it to someone else. When you teach someone else the concept that you learned from a book or from a resource, you involve the act of retrieval. You're not just reading, and that's key in changing the information from short-term to long-term memory. Because when your brain looks for the information and try to find which synapses has that piece of information, the information gets solidified more and gets more into long-term memory. If you're just reading it, your brain gets you in the illusion of learning. You think that you understand, you think that you're learning, but in reality you're not. Why? Because you're just reading the information, you're just looking at it, it's only passive learning. If you cover it or you try to remember that information and create it in your own words, explain it to someone, that involves the act of retrieval, and you change the information more from the short term to the long term. Spaced repetition is another key studying technique that can help you take the best out of your studying time. I see students who study one concept, they repeat it the day after and then the day after, and then they never repeat it afterwards, they never review it afterwards. And that does not fall with the idea of spaced repetition, because during this time period, the connections to find this information in your brain get weaker. And by you doing the spaced repetition after a week or a month, the connections gets much stronger, and now the information gets into long term. And that is the main concept behind the Anki algorithm. So if you create flashcards and you review it within the Anki algorithm, they repeat it after a day and then after a month, and based on how much you remember, they show it to you more often or less often. That because of the idea of spaced repetition. Because if you leave some time between you studying the information and you reviewing it, it gets more solidified. Some might say, I can study it now and I can study it after a week and study it after a month. Unfortunately, time is limited. So you might not have time to review the information a million times. You might have that during elementary school or high school, but once you're in the college level, university level, the amount of information that you have to study is massive and you don't have time to review multiple times. So you have to pick very wisely when are you going to review and how many times are you going to review so you can cover the whole material. Other study techniques that can help you remember the information more vividly are memory palaces, the mnemonics, or visualizing the information that I discuss in detail in my course on how to study for exams. And going to our final tip on how to rank in the 99th percentile in your class and how to achieve your goals on your exams is reviewing. I see so many YouTubers or students who say, I never review information, I study it once and go to the exam. In my opinion, that is not the best strategy, because if you are human, you will forget information, and reviewing is the only way to remember that information. But reviewing doesn't necessarily mean you review the same material. So if you studied, for example, from a book, and now after studying the whole book, you go and solve questions that covers that book, that is a form of reviewing, because you're studying the same information but in different format. So reviewing doesn't necessarily mean reviewing the same material, it's reviewing the same information in different resources or within the same material. Another thing that you can do whenever you're studying a resource is taking notes. So instead of having to review the whole 1,000 pages in the book, you can review the notes of the most important information you took from that resource. And in my course, I discussed in detail how to take notes, how to review information. So in my opinion, reviewing is important. It helps you solidify the information from short-term to long-term memory. It doesn't have to be using the same format or the same material. It could be different formats that cover the same concept and not only reading. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope the tips that are provided in this video will help you rank in the 99th percentile of your class and achieve your goals on any exams you take. If there are any tips that I missed that could be helpful to future students, Leave them in the comments below and I'll give you my opinion about that as well. If you want a more detailed discussion of the tips included in this video, make sure to check my How to Study for Exam course, which is available for free on Skillshare. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell sign so you get notified whenever I post future videos on my YouTube channel. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and see you in future videos. Peace.